The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions, and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to Talk Live Paranormal with Shannon and Mr. Bill. I am Mr. Bill. Shannon is having some major computer issues tonight. So once again, I got Mr. Jake on here with me. So Jake, say hi.
Heyo.
Say hi, Jake. Come on, Jake. Say hi.
I did say hi. Come on, Bill.
I want to start off the way we do every show. Want to say hello, thank you, and be safe to every man and woman out there that's fighting for this great country, whether you're Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, anyone. You put on that uniform and you're working your butt off to make sure that we're safe and we're happy and we're secure in what we're doing here. You know what? Thank you very much for everything you do. You guys are awesome. You make it so we can do what we like to do. Come home safe. Keep your head down. Just get back to your families. And on that note, I also want to say a really, really big thank you to the family members out there that are keeping the home front going for all those soldiers that are all over the place. Husband, son, wife, dad, whatever it is, especially the kids. Thank you guys very much for being here, for holding down the home front for them, because they know that you are there for them. They know they have something to come home to. Thank you very much. So let's see. First thing I want to talk about, it's cold as balls outside. Holy crap. It is... I've heard it colder than a witch's tit in a brass bra, but oh my God. What the hell? It's supposed to be -20 when we wake up tomorrow morning. Why? Now, you know what? I realized I'm in Iowa, and I'm bitching about the weather. There's a damn thing I can do about it, and I chose to live here. So, what am I going to do about it? Nothing. Does it help me to gripe about it? Yeah, it does, actually. Makes me feel pretty dang good to gripe about it. I like griping about the weather. Not much else I can do about it. Nothing actually I can do about it. But hey, I can gripe about it. I can do it. Whatever we need to do. See, Shannon's on here watching on Facebook right now. Hi, Shannon. I wish you could get in here with us, but I know you're having issues there with that lovely... Florida. I don't know if I could do Florida.
Florida's too humid.
Florida's a little... well, I can deal with the humidity. I don't know if I could do Florida. I've been there and I've played that ball game and swung that bat before. It'd be a shot in the dark if I could do Florida. I know I'm going to contradict myself now. I like cold weather. Now, I like extremely cold. Amanda, I know you like Florida. For those who are listening here on the station right now, we are actually live on Facebook also. You can go over to Facebook and watch us live on Talk Live Paranormal with Shannon and Bill. Go on over there if you want to see my ugly mug. I wouldn't recommend it. I gotta look at it every day. Oof. So yeah. Thanks, Shannon. Thanks. But yeah, I don't know. I like the cold. I like the extreme hot. I'm a big guy. I don't do so well some days on the the humidity level scale. I love going out to Oregon every year. My wife and I try to go out there where she's from, and we go out there and we go up in the mountains, and it's hot. It's 102, 110, but it drops down from like that 110 all the way drop down to like 60s, 50s, sometimes 40s at night, and that's in August in the summer. So you get that big contrast, but there's one thing that's not there. It's that freaking humidity. Ugh. That's the only bad part. Now, I can afford to sweat off a few 100 pounds. So, that being said, let's move into tonight's topic. Like that segue, Jake?
Always, Bill. Every segue you have is always entertaining.
All right, so last week we talked about Ouija boards. This week, the week before that, we talked about different stones and different symbols and stuff, things you can carry with you. We've talked about different equipment and everything, but I had someone send me a message tonight, and wanted to know if it's possible, is there any way to kind of describe what a ghost, spirit, or a specter actually is? And the honest and first part of the answer is a ghost or a spirit or a specter is actually a compilation of many different elements. Kind of first and foremost, it's the essence and the energy of a previously living human being, lacking its physical sense, sight, sound, touch, etc. That's what's missing out of it right now. Second, it's a mass of feelings, and it uses different forms of communication. Sometimes they can actually easily sense a human's feelings, whether it be fear, kindness, anger, pain. I believe they can sense that. Kind of the third thing is a ghost is an elemental. I can't talk. An elemental being sustained by electrical charged environment. So what's all that mean? Lots of to say and go. So what that pretty much means is electromagnetic force. We use EMF detectors all the time when we say something's there. Now, if there's no electricity around there, nothing in the walls, nothing putting off energy like a cell phone or a computer or a laptop, an iPad, or a watch, and yes, a watch can set off a EMF detector. We see it all the time on our investigations. We see people going, oh my god, there's something here. And I look down and they've got an Apple Watch on that same wrist, or they've got one of those Fitbits on the same wrist. That can actually set that off. So make sure you know how you're holding your equipment first of all. I want to talk about some basic understandings of the ghost from, here we go, Jake, this is where I'm going to pull you in, from a scientific standpoint, about all the theories and assumed facts based on our experiences and technology and what we've seen and done. So, first, a ghost. This is something that I've thought about a lot. A ghost or a spirit or a specter, they vibrate at a higher frequency in their realm, and due to our own lack of a physical substance, they're there. We can't see them right away. The realm we live in, life, is, to me, has a heavier density and the lower substance or substantially lower frequency vibration. So they're vibrating up high, and we're lower than they are. Now, that's kind of how my theory of the planes of existence, I've explained that a couple of times on here to bring anybody up to speed on it. I have this theory and this thought of, we know there's 9 planes of existence and possibly 10 that they can prove mathematically now. if the very center being where all of us are at, it may not be that we are all on the same plane, but we're so close together. But that's why we can see each other. Now we're stacked up. Some people are on the same plane, some people aren't, and we can see and we can acknowledge. I know that I'm holding a Dr. Pepper bottle in my hand, or I know that I'm sitting on a couch sometimes and there's a dog next to me. I know that. I can see that. I'm able to see that plane or that frequency that entity is putting off, and that's what we call life. The other side of it is if we're here in the dead center, and an entity is at a higher frequency, how do we see it? How do we hear it? How do we know it's there? My theory, and Jacob, you jump in here whenever you want to, is that every now and then they change their frequency, or somehow they adjust their frequency down, and they can actually they're coming close enough to where certain people can see them. They can hear them, much like a medium does. And they may loop in and loop out, and that's why a medium always says, "Oh, I just got this quick shot in my head." It's like flipping through a picture book, and bang, something hits them, and they stay on that. So that's the way I kind of look at it, on the frequency levels. This causes us to lack the ability to communicate properly with entities. Some of their frequencies, like I said, they jump in and out. This is assumed the fact has been established by the use of an electromagnetic detector, electric voice phenomena, or other various technology pieces. Or it's assumed by the fact that some people actually see them. Some people hear them. They hear them talking to them. They get these messages. They know they're there. So if you look at spirits being on a different level than what we're on, and these levels are bouncing around, but we're steady, maybe that's how, if their frequency is bouncing up and down, up and down, up and down, they're passing through us. Now, why is it that we can't see them all the time? So I believe that a spirit or a ghost or an entity, they need a substantial amount of energy to manifest in our realm, whether that be happiness, sadness, fear, anger. Which one of these puts off the most? Is it, Jake, which one do you feel puts off the most?
Emotion-wise?
Anger? Is it fear? Yeah, emotion-wise. What emotions help put off a lot of energy, so that way, they can feed off of it?
I don't know that it's any one emotion that puts off more energy than another, because it's a spectrum, just like for us as living, so we can experience different levels of happiness or different levels of anger.
True.
Or sadness. And I think depending on where in that spectrum you fall, that intensity is going to carry some energy, some associated amount of energy with it. Now, I would also say that there are some emotions that people are naturally going to experience more intensely than others, like anger, love, hate, sadness, sorrow. Those are things that we feel a little bit heavier, feel more intensely. So I would say by nature, those might carry a little bit more energy with them. But again, even those are still on a spectrum. And there is an idea you brought up earlier that I kind of want to go back to briefly. And that was this idea that you mentioned that they vibrate at a higher frequency. And what that immediately made me think of was, in physics, there's this idea that with an atom, and you have electrons that are floating around the nucleus of an atom, there's this idea that depending on where the electron is, there's a certain amount of energy associated with that point. And then as they absorb more energy, they can reach a different point, or essentially they reach a different energy level, and they can't sustain that for very long. So as a result, they fall back to what's called the ground state, which is the amount of energy that they naturally will hold. As a result, what that does is that gives off energy, like light, for instance. And that same idea is what I was thinking when you brought up the fact that sometimes they can change their energy level. And so when you think about them being at an energy level above us, that vibration that you were mentioning is essentially giving off energy. Once they've given off enough energy, they've now reached a lower energy state where they're able to be seen by us and in our plane. And then even beyond that, if they don't have a certain level of energy sustained, then they drop below what we can see or hear or feel or interpret.
So it's essentially like, almost like they use kind of like almost like our energy or energy from our equipment to almost like charge their batteries, but when they try to put off that the give you the knowledge that they're there or try to say something or that drains them real fast. Is that kind of what you're saying? So it's kind of like they flicker in and out.
And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of the skeptics with the paranormal field say, well, you can't get it to go on cue. And I think that's because of this idea of having the right amount of energy in order to sustain the interaction.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And I started thinking, I asked you the question of what emotion I think, you think allows you to put off, gives them more energy. I have noticed that we seem to get a lot more activity when we have, whether it's males or females, that show up and they're young and they're going through puberty. That because their emotions are so a lot, and I hate to say it's mainly females when they're going through that puberty and their emotions are up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Sometimes they don't know, am I angry, am I mad, am I sad, whatever, and they put off a lot of emotion. So I believe that by them putting off that much energy, it gives the ability for the entities to draw more off of them directly. I do believe that having people that at a hunt that have that are more active and they're happier and they're more engaged and more involved and putting off a lot more energy, then that seems to be bringing out more also. Because if you have a really good group that's lively and energetic, it seems that it puts out a better vibe or a better, I don't know if it's a better level of activity, but it allows them to give the entity a chance to pull more, and they almost want to interact more.
And to piggyback off of that, I think you're exactly right.
I agree with what you said. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was thinking about it as you were talking. There are certain emotions that I would say have higher frequency, and that would be your happiness, joy, love, those kinds of things. But then you've got ones that are lower frequency, which would be your anger, your depression, your sorrow, those kinds of things. And so I think when you have the spectrum where there are some people that might be on the higher frequency end and then others that might be on the lower frequency, I almost wonder if they would be more gravitated toward the higher frequency energy or if they'd be more gravitating toward the lower frequency. And does it depend on if they're above or below our plane? Would that have an effect on which emotion?
Do you think it also could depend? Do you think it also can depend on the entity itself? If it was a person that passed away that was fully and lively and full of energy, are they going to gravitate more towards the lively energy than if you got a person, say, like, I don't know, a mad bomber who who got off, more or less got off on people dying and blowing people up and making people nasty and all this, are they going to gravitate more towards the anger side of it and draw that energy off of them?
That's a really good question. And I would say that I would assume that they probably would. And what I'm basing that off of is we as humans flock toward the familiar. So why would they not do something similar just because now they're on a different plane of existence? And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of times using trigger objects can sometimes get a lot of interaction, is because it's a familiar object, or maybe a familiar group of objects, or it's a familiar place, or a familiar personality that the entity is used to. And so they're going to gravitate toward that because it's something they're comfortable with, because it's something they know. So I think that same idea can be applied toward emotions. If it's an emotion that they felt very strongly in life, they're probably going to be more drawn toward that same emotion or same type of emotion that's coming off of a living person as well.
True, I agree 100% with that. I do. And then it's also kind of looks at depending on the amount of electricity, depending on the amount of energy that a spirit can get. That's the other reason why the theory is that if they can pull a large amount of energy, that's why they'll show up on a thermal camera, because they don't have enough energy to put off what we call a heat signature. They put off a cold signature, or they're as cold as the area around it. But sometimes what's believed is their energy that they're drawing in and they're able to use is actually colder than the area around it. So the thought is that maybe the energy they pull in, we pull in energy into our body every day, whether it's, we breathe, we eat food, we drink, that gives us energy. And hopefully we put off an exothermic, I want to say it, make sure I get that right, an exothermic energy of heat. We put that off from our bodies.
Yep.
That shows up on a thermal camera, usually as red. So if they're not able to, if they're pulling the energy in, and they are already cold, the theory in my brain is that they go back almost backwards. They're not going to put off a heat signature. They're going to almost put off a cooler signature. And I mean, sometimes, don't get me wrong, we've seen on the thermal camera stuff that we can't understand because it looks like a heat signature coming off of something moving down a hallway. And maybe, just maybe, they're actually able to bring in that energy and put off that exothermic energy to see the energy and the light out there. I don't know. I mean, they're based on the energy, the amount of energy that an entity consumes at the moment that they're there. Like the floating orbs or a light mist, the dark or the sinister shadow that runs down the hallway. Ooh, I'm sorry, I have to. The physical assertness where they move something, where they move stuff around. Their ability to manifest in front of us or to manifest near us seems to be dependent on the use and the availability of a form of energy. They need to pull something into them to be able to do something. So if you can give them that spot of energy, if you can give them that electricity, or put that energy off, I think that actually helps them. Like, we use the plasma balls all the time. Put them in an area to put off large amounts of heat and energy into the air. Some people use, I can't remember what they're called, thumpers that put off, not really thumpers, but a large speaker that's putting off a large vibration of noise. So, but Mike, I guess my question to you, Jake, maybe you can help me understand this, is what level of frequencies? Is a different level of frequency going to put off a different energy that they can utilize, do you think?
Yes.
Like a level of sounds, frequency of sound.
Yes, and the reason for that is because energy, particularly light and sound, for instance, is given off in waves. And there are a few things with waves. You've got something called the amplitude, and that's if you were to draw the wave out on a piece of paper. That's how high and how low does the wave go above a central point. And then that's the amplitude. That tells us the intensity. And then you have wavelength, which is the distance from two high points or two low points. And then you have the frequency, which is, and the frequency is a measure of how many complete wavelengths will cross through a certain point per unit time. So frequency, when we think of it as hertz, is it's so many wavelengths per second. And so higher frequencies are going to have higher amounts of energy associated with them because more wavelengths are passing through a point per unit time. Whereas the longer the wavelength, the lower the frequency, the less energy there's available. So then
what do you think, Shannon?
Hi, guys. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. You guys are going so scientific-y with this. I was just like, I'm just going to let them roll with it. They're not speaking my language.
So what do you think, Shannon?
Well, the whole time I'm sitting here listening to you... I'm not as into science as Jake is, but the whole time I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk, and I'm wondering if you guys think that there are spirits out there who do not need our energy, if they've got a large amount of energy already and can communicate with us without having to use our energy or devices to get energy.
I'm going to say yes, but it would be so hard to test and prove that theory, only because we're a stage in our life in our humanity where there's so much energy all over the place right now. I mean, there's no and can they draw it from the earth? Can they just draw the energy straight out of the earth? The earth is alive; it puts off energy. Trees, grass, the movement of the center of the earth causes whatever vibrations. I think. Excuse me, I didn't mean to burp in everybody's ear. Wow, that was disgusting. I'm thinking that they has some. There has to be some out there that has that ability to be able to do that. There has to be. There's no way around it. What do you think, Jake?
I might have to disagree with you for a couple reasons. One is because that you've already mentioned. That's how do we test it? How do we go about determining does this actually happen or does it not? Particularly with the ability to take energy from the earth. Because this kind of goes into my second thought, which is all energy has to come from some source. So when we think about living plants, their energy ultimately comes from the sun, and they do photosynthesis to produce a sugar. But then we as animals, since we're not able to produce that sugar on our own, that has to come from our diet. And then there's a process that our cells go through to produce an energy molecule known as ATP. And then anytime our body does anything that requires energy, such as a muscle contraction or trying to keep your body temperature a certain temperature, that all requires energy. And that energy comes from the breaking of chemical bonds within our body. Now, for an entity or a spirit to be able to do that, I'm looking at it from the point of what is their source of energy. Because in order for them to be giving off energy, it has to come from somewhere. So if it's not coming from equipment or from individuals, where is it coming from? So I'm not going to necessarily say that they can or that they cannot, but I guess I would say we don't have enough information to really say one way or the other.
It'd be hard to get that information, too.
What about solar flares?
Now, that's electromagnetic radiation.
But what about
that's
the
what
sun?
That sends
Okay, so that it's still electricity. It's a radiation, which is a form of electricity.
Yep, it's still energy.
So what about, they say it seems like when the moon is its fullest, or, that's when a lot of weird things happen. And I don't know if that's just because the sun light rays are bouncing off and it's lighting up the earth and people are seeing more that they don't normally see in the dark. But what if it's the flares from the sun bouncing off the moon and coming down and actually giving off more energy? That's a theory. It's a possibility. It'd be hard to tell the test, but it'd be theory.
It'd be very hard.
Then you have to look at when are solar flares occurring, because it's not a continuous thing.
Well, wouldn't it just have to be solar flares, would it?
No. I mean, there's a lot of
solar flares, even micro solar flares,
that can happen. Yeah. I mean, the sun gives off its own energy anyway as a result of nuclear fusion.
Yeah. So are they able to use that energy? But now then that comes down to them, why don't we see them in the day? When it's the brightest. When we're in direct line with the sun, where we can see the sun, and that energy's hitting us. Are they storing it up so they can spook the shit out of us later? That's what they're doing. They're like, hey, I don't want to waste this energy. I'm going to hold on to this, and then I'm going to make Shannon jump in the dark. Ooh, I don't know.
That actually brings up a good point. Because, now when you talk about light as an energy source itself, and the way we see color is actually because objects will absorb certain wavelengths of light. And what they don't absorb, or what bounces off, is what we see. So what we know as white light, or anything that looks white in color, is not absorbing any light whatsoever. If it's black in color, it's absorbing all of it. That's why darker clothes in the summer will make you feel warmer, because it's holding on to all of that energy. So when you're talking about not being able to see them during the day, could that be because of the light that they are or are not reflecting back?
A really good question.
That's a damn good question, actually.
And then again, how do we test that if we have one school of thought versus another?
And who's to say that they're not walking beside us during the day? We just can't see them.
Exactly.
Well, again, now we've looped right back around. Who's to say that when we're in a group of people, if all three of us were in the same room, that sorry, I was eating a milk dud. If we're all in the same room and I'm talking with the two of you, I can physically see you, I can see you guys, you're right there, I know we're having a physical conversation. What's to say that there's not an entity that is on almost the same level, or say, hey Pam, the same level or the same layer that or really close to me and to my energy, that's looking at me but can't see the two of you because you're almost at the same energy level that I am, but they're not on that same frequency you guys are, but they're on the same frequency I am, and that person or that entity is standing right next to me going, don't you see me? I'm talking to you. I'm right here. There's nobody else here. Who are you talking to? They could be standing around us all the time, not seeing you two, seeing just me, or seeing just Shannon, or seeing just Jake, and they don't see any one of us. So, have I lost both of you yet?
No.
I was lost from the first 10 minutes when it went into science. I'm trying to, not to mention I'm a blonde, and I ain't scared to mention on the radio, I really don't care. But as far as techie stuff, I could do techie stuff, but science stuff, like all this stuff, I mean, obviously there's a reason why we do this, is because we want explanations and try and find explanations, so I don't, you guys kind of lost me a little while ago, but I'm like coming back slowly, I guess.
I'm right with you, Bill, because what I'm thinking of is, could it go the other way? And we have evidence of this when you and I were at Beatty Mansion with Michelle and Kelly. And we had that, I think it was the first group we had downstairs in the basement. And there was that older woman that saw the face right in front of her, but nobody around her saw it. So then the idea is...
It was right there in front of her face.
Right. So then the idea is, could she have been vibrating at a certain frequency that aligned with the frequency of the entity, and that's why only she was able to see it and nobody else?
And that brings me to another side of it is, does this also depend on our age? Do you sometimes think that that children, they say all the time, you hear kids talk about my imaginary friend. Do our so-called imaginary friends, are they paranormal? Are they spiritual? Are they with us just to guide us to a certain point in our life and then say, okay, you got this, I'm going to go help somebody else now, and then they go away? And then as we get older, because that lady that saw that face there at the Beatty Mansion, she was older. She'd been around for a while. I don't want to call somebody old. I'm feeling really bad about this. In her words, she's got one foot in the grave, and she's hoping that she can get her other one in there soon because her feet are cold. So, and that was her exact words, y'all. Are they coming back to her, or something trying to come back to her to help guide her the rest of the way? Do we get to that point in our lives where we needed the help in the beginning? Now we're here, and we're okay. We can handle things somewhat on our own, and at the end of our lives, or when they know. And I'm not saying people have to be old to experience this. That if someone all of a sudden gets sick, or just how many people do we know or we've heard of that have died for no reason at the age of 35, 40, 50 years old? To me, that's not old. That's in middle of your life. But did they come to that person? Did they say, are they there going, okay, now I'm going to be waiting for you and I'm going to help guide you through the rest of this. And then when you pass away, they're there more or less to kind of take your hand and go, okay, this is what happens next. And this is where we go next. We go back and we haunt the shit out of Ghost Hunts USA is what we do. We're going to go find those guys and scare the crap out of them.
What about a disabled child, though? What about a disabled child or someone that's been disabled from birth that can't make it on their own as they get older?
I honestly think that there's somebody with them at all times. Now, there's different levels of disabilities.
Right.
One of them being what I feel is one of the strongest levels of disability is Down syndrome.
Right.
I always hear people say, "Oh, darn, he's got Down. Oh, I'm sorry, he's got Down syndrome." What if that's where we're supposed to be? Now, have you ever seen a really unhappy person that's got Down syndrome? I haven't. I've done lots of events where they've been there and they're always happy. They always want to know things. They want to do things. Maybe they're the next level of evolution, or they're in the middle of that change on that evolution, and they are what we're striving for. I want to be as happy as somebody all day long. I love being happy. I hate when I have to be an ass, and I have to be an ass a lot. Excuse me, but I don't like to be. I like to be a happy person. I like to smile. I like to have a good time. But I don't know if say someone with Down syndrome actually has that spiritual guide with them all the time. I'm wondering, they were born, they have Down syndrome, they're happy, because they're just there, they're ready to go. Now you take someone who has a really, really debilitating disease that needs that guidance at all times. If you watch them, every now and then, you can just see it in their eyes that it's almost like they're talking to someone, whether they can talk or not. It's like they're talking to someone that's not there. And they may be seeing someone, whether it was grandma, or it was grandpa, or it was an uncle or an aunt, or just an entity that's there to say, it's okay for now. We're going to get through this, and I'm always going to be with you. I don't know. I guess this one's getting really, really deep here, and I don't know which way it has to go. I don't know. Jake, this is what usually happens. We start talking about one thing, and all of a sudden we're on 15 million different things.
Yeah, and my science brain is all over the place.
What do you guys think about peace? Do you think that they are there, that something is with like a child all the time, that somebody is there with them? And then
I think so.
do they look at them and go, okay, you're a teenager now. Now it's time to be a pain in mom and dad's ass. I'm going to leave you alone for a while and let you try to catch on to what you're thinking about. And then later on in life, they can kind of look and go, okay, you're on your own for a while. And then they come back. Or another one takes over.
I would say yes.
Do spirits age along with us?
I'm not even going to go down the
Yes, to which
comment.
one?
I don't think so.
I think that they are with us all the time. Now, it may not, and you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but it may not always be the same spirit at every point in an individual's life. Bill, you and I were talking about this a week or two ago, where I shared a story about something just like this that had happened. And then just all of a sudden, poof, that presence was gone and was no longer a part of my life. But I think you're exactly right. There's always someone in the background with all of us, and I don't think that they'll necessarily make themselves known unless they need to.
Well, and Pam just made a very good point but Pam made a really good point on the live feed. She said the thing is, being a child, they don't have anything else to cloud their mind. So they're there for the guidance, or they're there just to be with them. So they don't have what we have, like I've always said, you grow up being, I have a friend, but no one else can see you, and I'm going to talk with you, and then your parents start saying it's time to grow up. You don't have a damn imaginary friend. So you start clouding your own mind and shutting yourself down, going, okay, you're not there. And is that how the spirits will go, okay, you're starting to get to that point, I'm going to pull away so you can't see me. I'll stay in the background.
I think that might have something to do with it for some individuals. Now, I don't know about all of them, and kind of what you're starting to talk about here, or at least where I'm going with it, is you start to talk about developmental stages of learning. So when it's a child, they are at a much different place as far as trying to think about the world than an adult would be. And that could be based on experiences or knowledge or
True.
what have you. But then you also start to think, when you look at stages of learning, there is kind of a progression of starting to rationalize things. And so when you're a child, you don't try to rationalize near as much as you do as an adult. So you stop, or when you're an adult, you stop seeing things maybe for what they could be, and you start trying to rationalize and find a logical explanation. And then, when you can't, that brings up something called cognitive dissonance. And that's when your brain tries to make sense of information that doesn't align with a previously held idea. And when that happens, that could cause some individuals to just dismiss whatever experience they may have just had.
Okay, so let's take this back to where we actually started with this whole conversation. Then let's talk about psychics for a minute, because the psychics in general, if they truly are honest, and I'm going back to this whole vibration thing. Do they emit a particular higher or lower vibration when they attempt to communicate? So if you have a psychic that goes into an area and they have this ability to almost shut it off. Some do and some don't. I know we've dealt with different ones. They're in an area. We'll say, okay, say we're at one of the hunts and we have a psychic with us, whether it be Pam or Tyler or Shannon or Tony Timbuktu, whoever it is. Are they actually able to almost turn it on and emit a particular higher or lower vibration in attempt to communicate with a spirit or a ghost? Do they kind of almost accelerate their own vibration with their own energy to allow and give the levels of that energy out there so something can really hook onto them? Or like I said in my wave pattern thing, if they're vibrating at a certain level above us, that allows the spirit to wave in like a sound wave, an oscillating sound wave, and get that really quick boom. I have you, or here's my picture. Is that how a psychic's able to do that? They can are they able to change their own vibration?
Assuming
dead air time.
assuming everything else that we have discussed is true, then yes.
I would think they can too.
I'm going to write all this down later. You guys know that, right? I'm going to get to work tomorrow. I'm going to
just hit record it when you play the show back.
That's true. I don't have to worry about it.
Grab a recorder and just hit record and play it.
It really makes, if we think of the whole thing as almost like a vibration, because that's kind of where I was going with the show tonight. Different levels of energy, which are vibration, and why can some people see it? Why are some people able to do certain things but other people aren't? And then you've got people who are way out there who they can't shut it off, and they constantly get it. They constantly hear what's going on, and they're unable to shut it off, like in schizophrenics. We talked about that on one of the other shows, where there's a portion in the back of the brain that we can read now, and they can hook you up to a machine and read it. That when you physically hear something, when your eardrum is actually vibrating, it physically they can see it in the brain saying, yes, they're physically hearing something. But when they give them their drugs and stuff, calm them down and almost turn that vibration off, or bring that, again, here we come back to energy, bring their vibration down, that part of that brain, when they're sitting alone in a room, isn't firing. They're not physically hearing that in the background until they take the drugs away again, and then it's there. So I don't know. It's kind of there's a different level of understanding that we have really a huge gap in the understanding level of what is exactly going on. So I don't know. And like Pam just said, our minds are our own worst enemy. My mind is messed up. I got people inside my brain. The guy who yells in my left ear is Italian, and the guy in my right ear is Japanese, and all I hear is Japtalian, and I don't understand the word they're saying. So,
I
guys
believe
have
her.
been
She
around me
also
enough
said
to know that sometimes.
She also said more stress causes more shit in our brains too, and I believe that too. The more stress you have.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if that's, you guys, I've talked to you guys, and Pam was there. Pam was my saving grace that evening. In a lot of ways, Pam, I thank you very much for what you were able to talk with me about.
You talking about Gettysburg?
With what I went through, Gettysburg it wasn't a stress level, but it seemed like when I was there, I didn't have any stress. It was almost like, I don't know if it opened it up, and it allowed me to try to see more, and I'm trying to figure out ways to get rid of my stress levels. One of them would be if I won the lottery. That would help out a lot. I wouldn't have to go back to work and do all that worky crap. Then again, maybe that'll cause more stress, and will allow things to open. We all have stressors in our lives. We have daily stressors. Things just go crazy. And yes, Pam, I'm trying to meditate, but some days meditation just isn't there. It's hard to do. Because my brain starts thinking about 30 million things when I try to meditate on my own right now. That's my inability is to shut down. And that's probably why I don't sleep. I'm, 2 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night is probably pretty damn good to me. If I get 5 hours of sleep, I wake up and feel like I slept way too much. So I don't know. There's maybe just opening up, and if we all can figure out a way to reduce the stress, maybe we can all get to we can kind of get to that point. Shannon.
Hey, I will be stressed for as long as my kids are alive, okay? I don't know how to relieve stress. I mean, I will, meditate, and I listen to meditating music every night, and I'm not going to lie, it helps. If I'm aggravated when I go to bed, it helps calm me down 10, 15 minutes in, and I can sleep better. So, if I didn't do that, I'd probably be angry every day and frustrated at everything going on, but it's hard to get rid of stress. It really is.
I found out, honestly, one of the most relaxing things that it helps me get rid of any stress is my AR-15, honestly.
Well, I mean, yeah, that works.
Going out and shooting things, shooting targets, not things. It's just that ability to picture something downrange and just let it go. And then I get into more stress of, did I hit it? Oh, I got to adjust my sights and blah, 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 blah. But it's, I guess, if we can figure out a way to reduce our stress levels, raise our pure energy levels, just to be able to raise our internal energy levels, and be able to have the ability to relax, raise those levels, get rid of the stress, and just let it happen. Maybe we'll all open up, and then we won't have to use a computer or a radio station to communicate. We can just call each other with our minds. I'm trying to dial a number right now.
Are you? You dialing Jenny?
I don't know. Oh, great. Now that song's playing in my head. 75309.
Don't sing it, please.
Great. Thanks, Shannon.
I'm sorry.
What's better than I love you, you love
Seriously?
me.
I'd rather hear Baby Shark.
No, not Baby Shark.
Baby Shark.
You guys are crazy. Well, hopefully I got my laptop figured out, and I'll be able to be on the whole time next Wednesday. I don't know.
I definitely
what I did different.
I really want you guys to.
What?
Is your laptop plugged in? Is your laptop turned on?
It was TeamSpeak. Like, all I did was plug my portable hard drive in to free up some space, and I tried to move some stuff to it, and that worked. And then it said something about my Microsoft account, so I had to log into that, and then boom, it worked.
Well,
I hate technology. I don't know why.
It sounds great.
Well, good, because the more expensive desktop was not working either. I'm done. I'm done with technology.
You're done.
Done
with technology. Take the technology and shove it. Oh, by the way, I need a new phone. I fell on my ass yesterday on the ice and broke my phone. Oh my god. Yeah, and the only thing I could think of when I fell was, don't piss your pants, because you got to stand up and you're out in public. Because that would have been embarrassing. Is that bad? That's the only thing I could think of when I fell?
Don't piss your pants. Did you have to go to the bathroom? Is that why you thought of that?
Oh, okay, I'll tell a quick story. A friend of mine who I work with out in Omaha, it was icy and slick and snowy and raining. And she pulled into her garage, and she just bought a new house, and they put they treated the garage floor with that paint where they put little flecks in it, so it's slick. She went to step down, slipped, sat down on the running board of her truck, bruised her terms, not mine, bruised her ass muscle, slipped on down, ripped her pants, and sat down hard enough to where she pissed her pants.
Oh my
And
goodness.
she had the balls to tell me. That was a mistake. Because I have never let that one go down. And that's what I told her today at work when I got there. I was like, hey, I slipped and fell on the ice, and the only thing I could think of was don't piss yourself. So. Oh. Well, I think we've opened up some lines of discussion where it's going to, in general, I guess for the person who asked the question, if you think about a spirit or a ghost, or even a specter, whatever you want to call them, they are a compilation of many different elements. They're there. They have from what we know, they may still have all their feelings. They don't understand, or they can't emphasize their feelings because they don't have the energy to do it. They are the essence and energy of a previously living human being or an animal, because we all know there's spirit animals out there. They're running around trying to figure out, why can't I poop?
How do you know they don't?
Just
it's spirit poop.
I have not yet that I know of. I've never.
I'm sorry.
Good,
I had to say it. I had to say it.
Spirit poop.
I'm just glad to be back on the
maybe
show.
we can get Michelle's vaginal powder.
Vaginal powder.
Yeah,
oh my god.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Maybe we can get Michelle's vaginal powder and give them a different smell. I don't know. So I tell everybody out there, if you're going to go out, you're going to do these hunts. Number one, if you can have something that can, whether it's yourself or a piece of equipment, and lady, if you don't know what a plasma ball is, look it up. You've seen them. I know everybody has. It's those little balls.
They're all over Spencer's.
That you buy anywhere, and you get yep. So I just got poked. We got about a minute, so we got to wrap this up. Shannon, welcome back. Jake, thank you very much for being here and being on our scientific side of the house. Jimmy, I want to thank you in the background back there. Thank you everybody who was here live on Facebook. Thank you guys for listening in. We'll hope to see you later, and we'll pick this kind of up, and we'll kind of keep going with this probably next week, I hope. Maybe we'll have a little bit more insight on it. Thanks, guys, for being here. Shannon, I love you. Jake, you're awesome. Buddy. Be safe on your trip, Jake. Drive really safe. We'll see you in a couple weeks or a couple weekends. And everybody else out there, last thing I got to say is, hey, we'll see you in the dark.